It has a bunch of blacked out accents, a big turbo engine, and Subaru's top safety pick plus rating, making this one of the coolest Outbacks that you can buy for 2025. Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous. That's the 2025 Subaru Outback, but more specifically, it's an Onyx XT. Onyx basically means that it has the blacked out accents. XT means that it's a turbocharged Outback, and it's a pretty high trim level, being the 5th highest of the 9 trim levels offered. It's even in a color called Magnetic Gray Metallic, which in person looks really nice. There's a lot of flake in the paint, and today I get to review this Outback for you guys to help you decide at home if this might be the right vehicle for you, so you can expect to see a walk around. All the specs, initial driving impressions, 0 to 60 on GPS, and then my final thoughts, and huge thanks to Twin Falls Subaru for letting me borrow theirs today. I'll link this one below if you're interested. It's already about $1,500 below MSRP, and I'm filming this video over 4 months before 2025 even starts. There's a lot of reasons to love an Outback. There's a lot of reasons why I personally own one. And with that said, let's dive right into this review. And if you guys like Subaru, the Onyx XT, or my video, please consider liking my video. That small act of kindness, it goes a long way. It helps me know you want to see more stuff like this, but it'll also help you by having YouTube choose to show you more stuff like this. Thank you. But before we get too far into this video review of the 25 Onyx XT, which is the last year of this generation, I want to mention I used to own a Crosstrek. I owned it for 2 years and 40,000 miles, and then an Onyx XT back at the end of 2021 was the first modern 6th generation turbocharged Outback that I drove, and it persuaded me to go from the Crosstrek to one of these, or the Wilderness, which I ultimately decided on, but it was a close toss-up between one of these and the Outback Wilderness. This basically felt like the more mature, developed, more powerful, larger version of the Crosstrek, and I really liked it. But the Onyx XT, because it was the first modern Outback that I drove, the one that persuaded me to stay with a Subaru and to buy an Outback 3 years ago, which I should mention is the longest I have owned any single vehicle, which I know that sounds silly, that's only 3 years, but that just isn't a testament to how good these vehicles are. As a daily driver, as a safe, practical family vehicle, I really like them, and the Onyx XT has a special meaning to me. But these, if you are new to the Outback nameplate, they first came out back in about 1995. It was basically the wagon version of the Subaru Legacy, which the Subaru Legacy first had an Outback as a trim level, and then it became its own model, which unfortunately for 2025, it's the last year of the Legacy. So basically the father to this is passing away at the end of this year. It's on hospice, palliative care, and this is what we're gonna have left. But there's gonna be a new generation next year, so you might be wondering, is it worth buying this one now at least $1,500 off, or should I wait for the new generation? Well, we don't know much about the new generation yet, other than it's gonna be a little bit longer, a little bit wider, and a big refresh. But Subaru historically plays it really safe, not just with their safety features, but with their redesigns. They really don't push the envelope that far because they have a really good platform. They refine it every year. They just make it better and better, and they don't just scrap what they've already worked on. They refuse to give up the boxer engine. They refuse to give up the CVT. And now the modern ones are really good. They're a lot better than they used to be. And there's a lot of reasons why 150 to 170,000 people buy these every single year in North America. They also sell in Canada and a few other countries. But if you're in the North American market, these are assembled locally, at least in Lafayette, Indiana. If that's local to you, it's not to me, but it might be to you. And there's a lot of reasons why you might love one of these, especially because for 2025, a base model, it's no more expensive than it was last year. A few of the options and standard features might have changed between the trim levels, but overall, it's a very similar build, a very similar deal to last year. So the base model, the lowest of the 9 trim levels, it starts at about $29,000 before destination delivery, and any other options. It comes with the physical key. It comes with dual screens. But this one, being the Onyx XT, or the cheapest, basically the cheapest version of the turbo trim levels, technically it's about the same as the Limited XT, which I already reviewed. And if you want to watch other Outback videos, I have now reviewed all the XT trim levels, 5 of the 9, because I also have a premium review out. But I'll get the other 4 videos of the other trim levels soon enough, so I'll try to have one video of a driving impressions and one video of a full review of every trim level for this last generation of Outback, because I really like them and they mean something to me. So, and a lot of you guys cross shop between trim levels, but ultimately there's basically one for every budget. This one MSRP starts at about $40,000. It has a few options. It has delivery, so it's a little bit more expensive. Then it has that $1,500 discount mentioned before. So for that price, It is not cheap. It is about $7,000 less than the average vehicle transaction right now, but that's not cheap. Who is buying these expensive vehicles? And as you're gonna see, this one does offer quite a bit for that price point. If you look at the window sticker, you will see that this one has only a couple little options, but overall, the standard features you get when you go Onyx XT, of course, you get the turbo 2.4 liter Boxster engine. You get proximity key features, which you can remote start it and unlock and lock the vehicle and track it with GPS and do a few other things through the My Subaru app if you pay for that. You also have these 18-inch black wheels. You have all the standard safety features that you can expect at this price point. You have Subaru StarTech's water repellent seats, which I have those in my Wilderness at 3 years. They have held up really well and they really don't show much aging. Although this does have kind of the Hobby Lobby yellow neon green type of stitching depending on what color or what the light is for how it reflects to you, and a few other little features. But because this is a family wagon, it's pretty big. At least it's making really good use of the room that it has. It's about 16 feet long, so because of the ground clearance, you can park it pretty far back and really save a lot of room up front if you need to. So it actually fits in average parking spots pretty well. Because it's about 16 feet long with about a 9-foot wheelbase, so it is pretty planted on the road, but because that wheelbase isn't exceptionally long, it still is really efficient at turning and maneuvering around town. It's only about 6 feet wide and about 5.5 feet tall. The roof rails on it are pretty cool because they're built in. They're not as heavy duty as the 700-pound rated static ones on the Wilderness, but most people aren't going to be putting a rooftop tent up there, so it does a pretty good job. This does weigh about 3,900 pounds because of the turbo engine and the upgraded features that it has. The payload, just like on all Outbacks, it's only 900 pounds. So between what's on the top, in the back, and in the seats, you can only hold 900 pounds worth of people and stuff in this one. It has a 390 final drive ratio, 8.7 inches of ground clearance, and as mentioned with the wheelbase, it can do a full circle in about 36 feet, which feels really agile on the road. Lastly out here, the gas door on basically every single Subaru is on the passenger side. When you lock the vehicle, the gas door locks, so no one's gonna be stealing or siphoning your gas, and when you unlock the vehicle, you can easily unlock that, so there's not like a manual switch like there used to be on the Crosstreks. And then you have 87 octane in this 18.5 gallon tank. Thankfully, the turbo engine doesn't require 91. It's actually tuned for 87, unlike the Subaru WRX. So with about a 22 city, 29 highway rating, you can go about 500 miles on a turbocharged engine, or a little bit closer to sometimes 650 in the non-turbocharged engines. And then this has an Advid GT Yokohama tire. It only has around 8 to 9 30-seconds of tread, so it's not like a super tready tire, but it could probably still last at least 35, maybe 40,000 miles before it needs to be replaced. It's a 225/60 18, and the best part of all, just like the Wilderness, because the Wilderness is basically based off of the Onyx XT, this has a full-size wheel and tire in the back, which looks like a matching rim. And then this is your proximity key, so you have lock, unlock, hatch release, panic button, but leave it in your pocket because you can lock and unlock the vehicle here, but it is sometimes kind of slow to respond. Check this out in real time. There we go. But the driver's side door panel of the Onyx XT looks basically the same exact layout as every other Subaru, including it having a few different colors and textures. Some of this stuff you've seen on other ones, some of this is new or specific just to the Onyx XT, but overall the door card, everything is soft touch. It's not leather, it's kind of more synthetic material, and I really like it. I think Subaru does a good job. They just need to extend the mat pocket to give you more cargo space in the front. Harman Kardon speakers on this one, Subaru on the door sill, rubberized mats and pedals, you have the hood release, you have the fuse box, you have a few options with only one blank button, trip reset, ventilation, lighting stock, and the headlights on this are super bright, especially at night. But then this is the StarTech seat. You have more Hobby Lobby stitching right there. You have your power controls. The lumbar support is really nice. The heated seat feature actually feels pretty good. And then these are super easy to clean with like a hot rag. You don't really need any soaps or anything like that because they're water repellent, kind of like boat seats. And then you have the Legacy sedan size sunroof up top. Sitting inside this Onyx XT, it's really nice, just like every other Outback and basically every Subaru in general. It's very well designed to be human-centric for the driver. Heated, leather-wrapped wheel to horn. It's loud. It's louder than the Forester. It sounds deeper too in tone with the two horns up front for the high and low. And overall, it's just a really nice place to be. When you fire it up with the push-button start, you'll notice the needles dance. Also, if it was at night, you'd see that the steering responsive headlights do a little theatrical performance for you guys, welcoming you to your car. You also have paddle shifters back here. But right now I have the AC on full blast. You might not hear it with my microphone sound cancellation, but look at how slow and laggy the screen is. It takes a little while. Actually, that didn't look as bad as it sometimes does. You have auto vehicle hold, you have electronic parking brake, a few plugins. Thankfully, no wireless charger on this one because that does not work very well for most phones. You even have the front-facing camera, which is pretty cool, although it's extremely grainy, and that pops open your X Mode 1 and 2. I also have a video driving my Wilderness trying to get it stuck last winter if you guys want to watch how this does in deep snow and mud. Otherwise, the backup camera, equally grainy. Honestly, it's not super impressive, but I've never had a problem deciphering what's around in mine. This is the 2 cup holders. They're actually pretty big. They can fit pretty big stuff. And then this is your 2-stage center console. But you might notice, there we have it. I basically off camera already loosened it because sometimes that second tray or the upper tray gets stuck up there. Otherwise, you have the compass package with auto-dimming mirrors and garage door openers. I love this. I've had that on both of my Subarus. Power moonroof, it can tilt if you push that. It can slide if you slide it back. Sunshade. This does slide, and this probably has LED. Nope, it has incandescent lighting. That's a shame. Otherwise, let's turn it off and hop in the back. I really like this magnetic gray metallic paint, partially maybe because I'm sentimental to it because that's the same color I had on both of my Toyota Tacomas back in the day. But overall, this is seriously such a good looking package with the gray and the blackout. I do recommend you tint the front windows, but overall, this is a good looking wagon, at least for being an off-road Subaru wagon. The door panel, basically all the same materials as the front, nothing really to talk about back here. It is soft touch. This is the StarTech seat bench. It is a 40-60 split. I already have this side reclined. You can also bring it up. Notice that, look at that difference in reclination. And then at 5'11", I fit in here pretty comfortably. Good visibility, good comfort, ventilation, heated seats and plugins down there. USB-C and B style. And then you have an armrest over here. So it's a pretty nice place to be in the back of the Outback, and it feels really spacious for only being a 16-foot long vehicle. There's a literal half dozen ways to get into the back of the Outback. You can push the button that's underneath the Subaru emblem. You can push the button on the dashboard. You can climb through the back seats. You can even wave your hand in front of the emblem, and that sometimes works to open it. I'm not sure if that's from the back camera or if there's an actual sensor in the badge. You can use the remote. You could always break the glass, but we're just going to use the remote. And it doesn't work when you leave the vehicle running. And I keep not learning that lesson, so let me turn it off and then I'll show you this. Round 2. It beeps and flashes a few times and then it opens up. This only has one power strut. The other side is just a regular one. So if that system ever goes out, you could just replace that with one based off of like the premium or the base that isn't powered if you want to. Otherwise, back here with the speaker, the subwoofer from Harman Kardon on this trim level, you have about 33 cubic feet. You also have these nice fancy handles that mechanically drop the seats, and they do a really good job. I don't personally use this on mine, so you can hide that under here if you want. But you also have the full-size spare tire and wheel, which you can see under here when you lift that up. So pretty cool that Subaru gives you all your tools, even the eye bolt hole that you can plug in to any of those little plastic squares. You also notice all the backup safety sensors back here. I did forget to mention before, if you guys install a tow package on a turbo model, you can tow 3,500 pounds. If you install it on a non-turbo model, you can tow 2,700 pounds. So a lot of you guys on the forums do seem to tow small boats, small like teardrop sized campers. Just don't do anything heavy, don't overstress the transmission. And then up here, you can lock it and lower it, or you can just lower it. You also have the PIN code, which I have an old video on how to set that. So you can leave your keys at home away from the vehicle where it doesn't detect them, and you can get into your vehicle without having the keys. You can't start it, obviously, but you can deactivate the remote by holding the lock button as you double press the unlock button, throw it in the vehicle, lock it up, and then if you have the PIN code set, you can re-enter into your vehicle. Like if you were hunting or fishing or kayaking or anything like that. Otherwise, you can watch it lower down. It does a pretty good job and it's relatively quiet. Seriously though, whatever light is on this, whether it's in a shadow, overcast, or bright sunlight, this vehicle in magnetic gray just looks so good in my opinion. Otherwise, the door panel is exactly the same, minus some of the controls. You minus one option for the backpacks, you know, lumbar support appears to be what's missing. But overall, it's happy. It's blending into the StarTech seats. You have a little bit of storage right here, a little bit more right here, and then a locking glove box because you do have a key hidden in your remote. And then it's not a very big glove box, but you do have a 12 volt right there. So with that said, let's come around to the front. I'll pop the hood and I'll show you why the Subaru Boxster engine is such a good platform. It's easy to work on and it has a nice big intercooler up top. Under the hood is the turbo 2.4 liter FA engine. It makes 260 horsepower at 5,600 RPM and really impressive 277 torque that starts as low as 2,000 RPM. So at 2,000 RPM, a turbo Outback makes over twice the torque as a non-turbo Outback. So this thing feels really punchy, really fast around town. And you'll see the 0 to 60 in just a minute. But you have ventilation through the grille to get into the air filter, and then it goes around to the turbo in the bottom down here, comes back into the intake, cools down with the intercooler, throttle body, the intake manifold runners. This does not have the thermal control valve, thankfully. It's a mechanical system, so you don't have to worry about that being a failure point. It also has an internal hood scoop because Subaru took away the external hood scoop, probably to save MPG, as I'm assuming what that bulge would have decreased it on. And then it's just easy to work on because you have an oil dipstick right there, top mount oil filter, so you won't knock that off when you're off-roading. You have the serpentine belt right here with a little plastic cover to protect your fingers from getting lost in the engine bay. You have the alternator, you have the air compressor, or the air AC compressor. You have all of your other reservoirs. You have a fuse box on each side. You have the battery right here, brake fluid. You have basically everything that's easy to access, and even this 2.4 liter turbo engine, you have a decent amount of room under the hood to work on it. Although there is a lot of piping and baffling and plumbing, you don't have a lot of wires and kind of sloppy engineering. It does look really nicely done how it's all figured out under the hood. So with that said, let's drop the hood, take it for a drive. Initial driving impressions of the 25 Onyx XT is this feels very similar to my Outback Wilderness. Of course, the driving seat position probably isn't the exact same as mine, so right now this actually does feel noticeably lower than mine, but in reality, the 0.8 of an inch difference in ground clearance probably doesn't make any difference. Otherwise, visibility is really good. The sun is up, so I do feel some of that on my head, so you might want to close the sunroof sometimes, maybe get it a little bit darker tinted, or just wear a hat in the vehicle if that bothers you. But overall, Subaru visibility is really good. I like that this has the little cutout right here, and it's not just a blank piece of plastic or something boring. Visibility through the side mirrors and the rear view mirror are also really good. Basically, you don't have to worry a lot about this vehicle. The slope of the hood curves down decently enough that I can't tell exactly where it ends, but I have a decent idea. And then the back with the D-pillars, you basically know where the vehicle stops. So you have pretty good proprioception to know where you're at in this vehicle at all times. And the steering wheel, it's leather, it's heated, it feels nice. The leather material on this feels a little bit nicer than some of the other Subarus that I've driven. Some people in the comments have speculated that maybe some of the cheaper leather wheels might be pig leather, whereas some of the higher end ones might be cow leather. I don't know. Comment below if you guys know for sure. But overall, it's just a nice driving experience, and when you have to get on the gas, say you're going 40, maybe there's a slow moving tractor in front of you if you're in the country like I am today, and you have to get around it, you can't really hear any turbo spool because the turbo's at the very base of the front of the engine. So there's a lot of mass between you and it, so you're just not going to hear it very well. But does it get up to speed really well? Yeah, it pulls hard. This thing is pretty responsive. Even being a mile above sea level today, I really can't complain too much. Turbo Outbacks, they kind of punch above their class for only 260 horsepower. They really scoot you along down the road. They handle decently well. A 9-foot wheelbase means it can turn pretty sharp. It's not a really long 11 or 12-foot wheelbase like a truck. That causes the truck to turn in 48 feet for a full circle. This thing can do a full circle in 36 feet. It just feels agile on the road. A lot of the rear cargo capacity and mass hangs over beyond the wheelbase, so it really doesn't interfere with its ability to maneuver around town, which is a really nice design. Sure, if the wheelbases were further, it might have better approach and departure angles for some crazy off-roading. Driving through a field, driving up a canal bank, anything like that, this thing is just gonna shine, and it's gonna be a piece of cake, basically. Anyways, guys, let's get to the 0 to 60, and we'll wrap this up with my final thoughts. 0 to 60 in the Onyx XT. Keep in mind, density altitude's 5,100 feet, so we're basically a mile above sea level, so this turbo engine is still down on power, at least 5 or 6%, and basically in all of my other acceleration videos, I do a brake rev, so I'm not gonna do that today. I'm just gonna go off of idle, and we're gonna see what this can genuinely do without the assist of a brake rev. And traction control is off. Here we go. Kind of slow on the start and then pulls really hard at about 4,000 RPM. And true 0 to 60 came in at 7.52. So that was probably about maybe 3 to 4 tenths of a second slower than a brake rev. But if you want to see what this one does with the brake rev, check out my driving impressions video. That will probably be released a couple weeks after this one. My final thoughts of the Onyx XT is that this is a really good vehicle. We don't know what the 7th generation Outback is going to look like, but if you want a proven platform that's, well developed, well established, has a lot of the quirks worked out of it, this is a good option. Always test drive the competition, check out other vehicles, but honestly, if it wasn't for my initial experience driving one of these Turbo 1, doing a low 7 seconds 0 to 60 on my GPS, and that was before I ever started a YouTube channel, I probably never would have stayed with Subaru. I probably would have gone back to Tacoma or some other vehicle, but this was exciting. It just felt like the bigger, more mature, developed system and way higher power level than my 2-liter Crosstrek. So I was hooked on this right away. These are as fast as the Subaru WRX, but you're not gonna get pulled over like one of those. You're not gonna attract the attention. It doesn't have the noise, it doesn't have the rumbling, and it doesn't have all the trade-offs that you have from a road-going rally car that just makes it not as pleasant of a vehicle to drive, if we're being honest. This is a wagon. 9-foot wheelbase, it's comfortable, lots of sidewall, it looks good, it's subtle, especially in this gray and black configuration. I think the Onyx XT is a really cool vehicle, but don't just take my word for it. I'm just a random guy you met on the internet, so go test drive one for yourself, drive all the vehicles that you may or may not be interested in to make sure that you guys find the right one for you. But if you're interested in this one, I'll link the dealership below. Everything is sold under MSRP and they ship all over the country, and honestly, I really like this vehicle and I'm trying to not be overly biased, but I'm sure I am, because they're good. I've kept it longer than anything else. It's lasted the test of time, and mine in 40,000 miles, I just did that update video on my Outback Wilderness, and it hasn't had a single legitimate issue. So with that said, I wish you guys the best. I hope you take care. Like this video, comment your thoughts and opinions below, subscribe if you haven't already and you want to watch more stuff. And with that said, have a nice day. See you guys.